Hi, everyone. Welcome to What Do You Think? My name's Nancy Wallace, and I host the show. And today I'm going to have two really great guests on. But before I start the show with my guests, I still have to make my announcement because I want people to understand that this program is to help people start to wake up, think, and kind of decide what they really do think about things that are being said in the news, the media, and what's going on in the outside world. Because a lot of people apparently aren't paying a lot of attention, and this would be the time to wake up and start voicing your opinion about what do you really think. The show is not designed to be a bashing show, however. So if we think somebody's trying to bash somebody or try to make myself or my guests look bad, I will cut you off in a heartbeat. So for the people who would like to call in and maybe ask questions during the second hour of the program, that would be great. If not, let me introduce my guests. I have two of them. I have Ramon and I have Tom. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Yay! Well, thanks for inviting us on. This is an honor and a pleasure for both of us.
Yeah, it really is. We really appreciate it.
I thank you very much. Now, I know. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, well, in American time, I celebrated my what was it? My 10th anniversary of my 26th birthday.
Well, good. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So do you feel any
perfect
older?
timing that you... Well, I'm sorry?
Do you feel any older?
No, actually, I feel exactly the same.
That's a good thing. So what we're going to do, guys, is I'm going to kind of let you do a lot of talking. I'll ask you some questions because you both have pretty good stories to tell. And my first question is going to be, why would you want to start talking about your life and what you have gone through, especially now? So let's start with Ramon first. So Ramon, can you kind of tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and kind of what journey you've been on and for how long?
Well, let's see. Really quickly, my parents are from Dominican Republic, and they immigrated to New York City in the 1970s. And my first recollection that I remember was I was around 2 or 3, and the other thing I remember is I was looking at my body, and I saw a baby milk bottle next to it, and I'm trying to grab it. My hand kept going through, and I was getting frustrated, and that's all I remember. But that was like one of my first recollections that I remember, and I was like, was that an out-of-body experience? But I was always interested in UFOs and things like that as a young kid, and my father would look up in the stars and say, you know, there has to be life out there in every single one of those stars. It's impossible. It's only us. So he really ingrained that. But the funny thing is that he was a very left-wing Christian, which was very weird because he was really open-minded when it came to UFOs and space, but then when it came to the rest of life, he was just like shut down. And that's not to say that all Christians are shut down, so please don't misinterpret that, but my father is. So we, you know, as I got older, I had issues there, and there was a guy, Tom helped me out here, there was a person we interview, the poet,
Kurt Nugent.
Yes, thank you. Kurt Nugent, and he writes in one of his poems that you usually choose a parent, and this is not exactly how he said it, but you usually choose a parent that will make it outstand for you. So now
the contrast.
Thank you. Because having a contrast, now I start looking in other directions. And around the age of 16, 17, I got in trouble with the law. I won't go too much in detail into that, but and that was another one that really started making me question life. It's like, okay, do I really want to go down this path, or do I want to change things? And as I further moved along, I would always get these cushy jobs, and then something would snap me right out of these cushy jobs. And then somebody at one of my jobs played this UFO, and it was the Haitian UFO, which was definitely obvious that it was a fake. But that opened me up to start looking and searching and searching. And then I'll save the story how I met Tom for after he tells his. Tom, you want to jump in and
well,
do your thing, Tom.
Boy, that was a short, abbreviated version there, Ramon. Well, I'm afraid I don't know if I can be quite as short as Ramon there is on what got me here, but oh boy, where do I start? Well, looking back, I have to say the first event that really had any impact on my current situation was a dream I had, what I called a dream most of my life, and now I realize what it really was. But when I was 5 years old, somebody had gone into the bathroom in our house. We lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and somebody had gone in the bathroom in the house and taken the whole roll of toilet paper and just strung it out all over the bathroom. You know, they TP'd the bathroom with toilet paper. And my mother was just furious. So she got the three of us kids and stood us up in front of her in the kitchen, and she gave us the, okay, whoever did this had better fess up or I'm going to spank all three of you. And I knew I didn't do it, and I knew my brother and my sister didn't do it either, because we were all outside playing. And I just could not comprehend the fact that she would spank all three of us for something that none of us did. So I said, Mom, I did it. So I took the spanking for something that none of us did. She sent me to my room, and I threw myself on the bed, crying, obviously, 5-year-old kid. And next thing I knew, I was looking down at my body. And I distinctly remember my hands felt like two balloons, and I didn't have to breathe. I remember going, wow, I don't have to breathe. And I flew through the skies of Phoenix, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I mean, it was real. I mean, I saw the houses, I saw the streets, I saw the cars. It was a Saturday afternoon, people walking on the streets, and I flew by a kite that was flying through the air. It was amazing. And then I knew I had to go back to my body. And so I was flying back to the house, and as I was approaching the house, coming down lower and lower, I saw people walking on the streets, and everyone I saw was covered with what, at 5 years old, I called it warts. They were just completely covered with warts. Now I would term it as, disease like leprosy or something like that. And it absolutely terrified me, scared the holy bejesus out of me. So, boom, I was back in my body. Now, from that day until I was 29 years old, I don't remember a single dream. Not a single dream that I can say that I woke up in the morning and could recall. And when I was living in Southern California, and up until this point, my whole life had been, anytime religion or spirituality or any of this stuff came up, my patent answer was religion was created to control the masses. I mean, I was as third dimensional as they come. I was, living my life of, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I just wanted to have a good time, have fun, make lots of money. I was a carpenter. I was building houses. I was building some really nice custom houses. I was just having a good time, and none of this stuff ever entered my life at all. In the 86, strange things started happening around me. The little synchronicities and the bizarre events. And I started hearing things, and it was really freaking me out. I thought I was going crazy. I mean, I honestly thought that I should be certifiably had the stamp put on my file and lock me away in a padded room type stuff. And the stuff just would not let up. And so the proverbial cosmic 2x4 came out and decided to start smacking me upside the head because I was not taking the cues, and I was not listening, and I was not investigating, and I was not asking the questions. So I was looking at a divorce, and then, like Ramon, I got myself in trouble with the law, and I was looking at going to jail. And things were just, everything was crumbling. My whole life was crumbling. But I still wasn't asking those questions. I started doing things like there were some of the questions that were starting to pop up around that time. Like I'd gotten, the voices that I heard was really concerned me. And the sounds that I was hearing and the synchronicities really started concerning me. So I did start looking a little bit, but I was still really third dimensional. And the final straw was my house burnt to the ground in Palm Springs. And I lost absolutely everything. That took me to my knees, where I was in the middle of this burned out house on my knees, looking up to the sky, tears streaming down my face, going, God, what is going on here? And that question was asked from my heart, my very being, my soul, whatever you want to call it. There was so much emotion and intention and prayer and just spirit put into that question. And from that point on, it's been an absolutely wild roller coaster. About 2 weeks after I did that, I had my second dream, and it was wow. I suppose to really set the stage, I ought to go ahead and relay this dream too. I was in my house, and it was dark outside. Now, before I went to sleep here, I was on my knees at the side of my bed, still trying to figure out what's going on. I'd read the Bible cover to cover. Cover to cover. It took me 2 weeks to read the Bible from cover to cover. I went through it just like a regular book. And I was on my knees praying, trying to figure out what was going on, cried myself to sleep once again. Then in the dream, I was in my house, and it was dark outside, and I was looking outside through the curtains, and I could see lights on in other buildings, so I knew other people were out there. And then I saw a friend of mine walking up the sidewalk by the name of Mike Deacon. And by the way, Mike, if you happen to be listening to this, I haven't seen you since second grade. Hi, how you doing? So he was walking up the sidewalk, and I was excited. Here comes my friend. So I go out to greet him. I said, hey, Mike, how you doing? Come on in my house. Let's visit for a while. And so we walk up to the front door, and it's locked. And I say, don't worry. We'll go around back, and we'll go through the back door. So we walk around to the back of the house, and the back door is locked. And I go, oh, Mike, don't worry about it. Well, I'll go through the second story window and let you in. Scene cut away. Next thing I know, I'm floating near the ceiling in the kitchen, big vaulted ceilings in the kitchen, and he's standing just inside the sliding glass door. He looks around, looks up, and sees me, and absolute terror fills his face, and he starts running. And I'm completely confused at this point. Why is he afraid of me? Why is he running? So I start chasing him through my house, and I chase him. A very big house, by the way. Finally get him cornered in a room, and he's backed into the corner on his knees, and he's holding a statue of Mother Mary out in front of him, and he's holding it out towards me like somebody does to a vampire with a cross, trying to ward me off with this statue of Mother Mary. And he says, I swore I'd never speak of this again. Said, you're the devil. And I reached out with my hands and put my hands around his and the statue and said, no, I love. And I woke up right after that. Now, 24 years of absolutely no dreams. None. And then to have this, it just took me for quite a ride. And since then, this has been my life, trying to understand who we are, what's really going on in this world. It's my life now.
Which is actually quite good. Now, Ramon, we're going to go back to you because you're going to tell us how you met Tom. So continue with your story.
It's hilarious because putting this show together was easier, and I'm serious, the whole audience out there, literally was easier than putting on underwear in the morning. It just came together so easy. So me and Tom met at a place called Eceti with James Gilliland up in Washington, Trout Lake, Washington, which is famous for UFOs flying over. And I went there 2 times. I went there 2009, then I went again 2010 where I met Tom. And you know, me and Tom, we got along great, but it was like nothing special at the moment, but there was like, okay, this guy's really cool. So, you know, I came back, and at that moment I went back to Japan, which I never mentioned. I live in Japan now. That might be important. But anyway, so I'm talking, I'm researching, and I'm like, I want to do a radio show. And before then, I was having these kind of like nightmare dreams of me doing a show and then things just going really wrong every time I would have these dreams. So I'll be either producing the show or I will be talking and then the commercial is done and the wrong volume goes up, or, you know, I cut off the speaker by accident or something like that. So then I said, okay, it's time to do a show. So I'm investigating. I can't find anything. And I'm contacting different people, and I contact Tom. And, you know, we talked on Skype, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked on Skype, and he was like, you know what? I've been trying to do a show myself. And I said, why don't we do one together? Because neither one of us really know what we're doing. So we contacted Brooks Agnews, and literally it was in the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, like
13 days.
Yeah. We had our, you know, I contacted Brooks Agnews. He got us on BBS, and we had our first 6 guests all lined up in 13 days. And me and Tom were just flabbergasted.
Yeah, we aired our first show 13 days after that Skype conversation, and had our first 7 weeks of guests lined up already. And
our website set up and everything. It was amazing. It was like something really brought that together. Like, you guys need to do this.
See, and I don't believe in coincidence, so it's something that needed to happen, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, we just got out of the way and basically allowed everything to happen because it just all fell right in our laps. I mean, the website, all the guests. I mean, everybody we contacted was, yeah, sure, we'll do a show with you, and we're like, we were all nervous about contacting all these speakers and authors and that sort of thing. Going, geez, how are we going to get a hold of these people? You know, and it was just like so easy. It was so easy. It's still so easy. I mean,
well, it is. A lot of people want to be on air. A lot of people have a lot to say, you know, which is important. Brooks Agnew, actually, I'm going to be interviewing him, I believe, in February, and I'm interviewing Nick Redfern actually next Tuesday on January 31st. But what I'm doing is August 10th and 11th, I'm actually going to be hosting a small conference, and Brooks Agnew and also Nick Redfern are going to be some guest speakers there. And I have not met Brooks Agnew before, so this should be, you know, a lot of fun because I know he has a lot of knowledge. But let's tell him what you've already said that you're on BBS Radio, so now tell him what day, what time, and what the name of your program is.
Oh, yeah, we never mentioned that, huh? That might be important.
No.
So, unlike you, we're not professionals.
Trust me.
The name of our show is the 100th. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
What were you going to say, Nancy?
I was just going to say, doesn't mean you're professional. It just means everybody gets screwed up every now and then.
The name of our show is the 100th Monkey Radio, and it's on BBS on Sundays at 3:55 p.m. Pacific time and 6:55 Eastern time, and that's 9 a.m. Tokyo time.
Yeah. So we do
Ramon.
1 hour. We typically do a 2-hour program, and we do 1 hour on BBS, and then we have a member section set up on the website. Last year we went to a subscriber base for the second hour content, and we made it dirt cheap relatively compared to what else is out there, and just to help offset the cost of everything that we've done here. So, and we just absolutely love the guys that are subscribing to us. They've helped us out so much, and it's good stuff. And we're bringing in some amazing guests and having some really good shows, getting some good information out there for the people.
Now, you also said you have a website, so why don't you give that out too?
Oh, it's the 100thmonkeyradio.com, and it's all spelled out. It's not the number 100. It's HUNDREDTH. So.
That's all right. You keep going. It's okay.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah. But one of the things that I think is important to get into, especially Tom, why don't you tell that story with the bicycle?
The bicycle.
When you were writing.
Yeah, well, this was also in my wake-up process there in Palm Springs after the house burned down and after my first dream. I was really throwing myself into trying to understand what was going on and get some answers. And I was asking God to give me guidance. And I woke up one Saturday morning, and this was a couple of weeks after the dream. And I've just had a compulsion to go out on my mountain bike because there was someone out there I needed to talk to. And this came through as images and feelings, and I was getting a full-blown contact, everything short of audible voice. And so I got out on my bike and just threw on a pair of sweatpants and a T-shirt and went out on my bike, and I started riding down Palm Canyon Boulevard, which is the main drag through Palm Springs. And I was going stoplight to stoplight, and there were all sorts of other bike riders out there. And I was going stoplight to stoplight with 5 or 6 other bike riders. And there was this one guy in he had a yellow jersey and black shorts on, and my bike, it just had had a mind of its own. It kept the handlebars kept turning towards this guy, and I was getting the message in my head, this is the guy you need to talk to. This is the guy you need to talk to. And I'm all freaking out. I'm nervous and like, what do I say to this guy? Just some stranger on the street. Hey, Spirit's telling me to talk to you. What do I say? So I go 3 lights with all this stuff happening. My bike having a mind of its own, and I finally say, okay, I'm going to trust in this, and I'm going to talk to this guy. So at the 3rd light, I say, excuse me. He said, but I feel like I need to talk to you. And he looks at me and gets this big smile on his face, and he says, it's always great to meet another kindred soul.
Cool.
And just that right there made my jaw dropped open. I was like, okay, so this is real. This is real. My mind's going 1,000 miles a minute, going, and so I have no idea what to ask the guy, say to the guy. So I finally spit out. I said, what do you think the world needs to go? What direction do you think the world needs to go in? And he said, true socialism. It's where we are our brother's keeper. And I just sat with that for 15, 20 seconds. I didn't respond or anything, and I had nothing else to say to the guy. I just could not come up with anything else to say to the guy. And I said, thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you. And the light turns green, and he takes off across the street. And I'm kind of in shock, and I look down, And I look back up, and about halfway across the street is somebody else. The only one in the street. There's a completely different person there, wearing a different colored jersey, had a peach colored jersey on, and you don't mistake a sunshine yellow jersey for a peach jersey. It was an encounter with extra dimensional or angelic or some other type of being was actually there speaking with me, and that was such a confirmation for me that yes, you had a contact with a divine, some form of a divine being there, Tom. And I've thought about that whole interaction, that whole conversation quite a few times through the years. And I've really contemplated what true socialism is. Now, when somebody says the word socialism, the first thing they think of is Russia, and the disaster they had with their socialist society. That was not true socialism. True socialism is exactly what I said earlier. It's being your brother's keeper, and everybody is looked at and known to be equals, where we take care of each other. We ensure that your neighbor has what he needs. If your brother next door has something that needs to be done, you offer a hand. I mean, when you have something that needs to be done or needs some help in some form or fashion, a hand is offered. That's true socialism. Everybody's made sure to have the basic requirements at the very minimum of what they need to enjoy this life on this planet.
And really, this planet, that is what it was meant to be. That's
Absolutely.
what it was meant to be and how it was meant to be. The problem is then we have the human people who think that they have to control, and they live through power and greed and fear tactics and all that. And to me, this, quote, 2012 awakening has a lot to do with us getting back, and I call it love from the heart. Just like what you're saying, Tom, except that I call it love because somehow we've forgotten how to do that. And we've got to get back to that because otherwise we're all going to be in such serious trouble, and it's not going to turn out too good. Ramon, would you agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. I was thinking as you guys are talking that, one of the things I don't like is when someone says, for example, us humans are messing up the world. And I'll usually stop them and say, think about that. I said, it's only really 1%. I said, because you're not cutting down the forest. You're not putting up these nuclear power plants in places they shouldn't be. You're not spilling oil all over the place. What is your fault and my fault is that we don't say anything. So we get pushed, and then we say, thank you, sir, may I have another? And then, here goes the other disaster. So that part is our fault. But it's not us humans that are messing up the planet. It's a 1% that really doesn't care or has their head so far up, that they can't see straight what they're doing. But it's our time to be responsible. So how can you be responsible? You always ask that question, what can I do? I'm just one person. And I always say that's bull because, here you have somebody like, one of my heroes, which is Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Let's use Gandhi, for example. Broken glasses, bad teeth, made his own clothes, and look what he did. He was able to stop the oppression in England, not only England, but what he did in South Africa in the 1930s or 1920s, which he stopped, they had a law in South Africa where any Indian man who's with his wife, if they're not under Christian weddings, is free for all. And they went out and they stopped that. And they would go to these places, no violence, and they would get hit across the head with sticks, and they'll just get back up and keep moving forward, and it wouldn't stop them. And this is a man who did it with no money. You know, he gave up all the stuff, you know, because he was very highly well educated. But look what he did. So stop belittling yourself and saying, I can't do this because I'm one person, or I can't do this because I'm white or black or a woman or gay, or whatever excuse you got. You know, as Tom loves to say, you know, your spirit first, and spirit is powerful. I mean, if you don't think spirit is not powerful, look out your window, look around you, look what has been designed, created, you know, look up in the sky. So you are part of that. So for you to say is that you are not strong enough, or you're just one person, you're really belittling who you are as a spirit. You're really insulting creation by saying something like that. So that's our problem. We don't know who we are.
There's a subtle difference in the way people describe I'm having a spiritual experience, you know, or they when they say I'm having or they explain that I had a spiritual experience, you know, it's kind of sets a mind pattern within them of being a physical being first instead of being the spirit first. If that mindset can be reversed, where people say I am a spiritual being having a human experience versus a human being having a spiritual experience, that shift right there would make such a difference in the mindset of all of humanity. If they, you know, because we are spiritual beings having that physical experience. This is just a very temporary situation that we're in.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, when we, you know, it has to start with us, where, you know, these kids are, you know, I work with kids, Nancy, and these kids, they already know that. I mean, they really, really know that. I look into the eyes of some of these kids, and it's just so amazing. Like, there's this one little girl, and I call her Rainbow. I nickname her Rainbow, and she answers to the name now. And the reason why I call her Rainbow is because there's something about her. Like, I always tell her, like, you know more than you lead on, and she'll just smile and you know, like, run away. She's really shy around me, but I can see that there's some more. And I'll give you another example. You know, they always talk about, oh, we have to teach these kids manners, and we have to teach, and you know, and I'm really starting to think that we need to open a school where the kids start teaching the adults, because you don't know how many times I've seen a little kid fall, and the first person you see that go to help him up is another little kid. Are you okay? Are you fine? Or one little kid can't really get, you know, this song or the little dance routine that they're doing, and then the other older kids would go and help them out. But then in society, you see an old lady fall on the floor and everybody's just walking by and no one helps. So for you to say that, oh, we need to teach the kids manner, no. We need to stop teaching them all the crap that we've been teaching them and then messing them up, so when they grow up to be adults, they're you know, ruthless and don't care about anybody, because that's what we taught them.
You're going to just love what I'm going to tell you right now. I actually came from Chicago, and I was channeled things I was supposed to do. I've been, let's just call it a great psychic for age 6, and now I'm older, much older. But here's what happened to me, and you're going to love this, Ramon, and when I tell you this, you'll know why. I was channeled that I was going to move from Chicago to a different location, and I was going to find some land, some funding, build a school, open it, and run it. And the name of the school would be called the School of Now. And so to do that, I had to get a 501c3, which I did. It's called the Child's Miracle Mind, Inc. And the project that I have taken on is I moved down here to New Mexico. I will be here for 3 years in April. And within the first 6 to 9 months that I was here, without knowing anybody other than a couple of people I met. I was actually donated 20.5 acres of land to build my School of Now on. So the School of Now is not based on grade or age. It's based upon each individual child, who they are, what they want to be, what they want to understand, and put into compatible classrooms with children like them, so we don't have this bullying stuff going on, and we don't have people saying you're crazy or you're weird or you're strange. But the school, I have to use it as being set up to help children who have been labeled with ADD, ADHD, problem children, children that do not fit the bell curve, which are usually the intuitive children. And so that's how I have to set it up. And so now I have the land, so I'm in the process of creating the monies that I need in order to build a school. Now this school will accommodate 500 students, K through high school, when it's finished. And it is a live-in school and a day school both. And it's the type of school that you're talking about, because these children do know. They know a whole lot. The problem that I see it is that adults think that they know it all, and they don't want the children to outsmart them or show them any kind of teaching. So I agree with you that the children really come here already well equipped with everything that they need in order to straighten out this world. It's the teaching of the adults, and that's going to be the hard part, because adults don't want to think that a child knows a lot more than they do. So that was my whole purpose for coming here to New Mexico.
Very nice.
Well, congratulations, and I mean, you just fit perfectly what I was talking about. You know,
that need definitely needs to be filled.
Yeah,
it does need to be filled.
And there's so many needs.
You know, and the thing is with the children, especially, just like you're saying, Ramon, you can look into their eyes and you know that there's so much more there. And then you look at what our government is doing by trying to get all these children to be put on ADD, ADHD medicine, because their basic thing is that they can't focus. And my problem with that is that these children are multitasking 24/7, and they're very, very bored because they're so far advanced, and it's time that we catch up with them, not try to bring them down to us. So for this school, when the parents come and the children come, every single member of that family will have an astrology chart done, a numerology chart done, and a consultation with me, so that we know exactly where that child is, why they may be acting or not acting or be quiet, or whatever the case may be as to what's causing that, whether it's emotion or because they have all this other stuff going on the inside that they don't think people understand as far as adults. So that's one of the parameters that will be met at the School of Now, is that there will be no more than 12 to 15 students per class. And every month for 1 week, there will be a specialized instructor that comes in. Now, the specialized instructor, they could teach numerology, they could teach astrology, they could teach meditation, whatever it is. They will be at the school for a whole week. Every single student, teacher, person who works with this school will have the same kind of training. After that special instructor leaves, the entire school will continue to practice what they have taught until the next one comes. That way we will know what attracts the child the most and give them all kinds of options so that they can actually be who they really are, with unlimited boundaries put upon them by saying, you can't do that, you're weird, you're strange, you're crazy. We're not going to do that in this school. And then after the high school part, the second part of this school is called the Miracle Mind Institute, and that one's for the adults. That's to help the adults learn these children are here and they need to take notice of what these children are here to teach. So that was my whole thing for coming down here to New Mexico.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. That's something that's highly, highly needed. And there's just so many different ways. And, you know, it frustrates me with the kids because they'll say ADD, or these kids have ADD. It's again, problem. What is it? Problem, reaction, solution. So we give these kids all these commercials, all these banners. You know, we put out these bad cereals and with the toys and when you go into a store, they put all the toys and candy at a low level, so the first thing catches their attention. And mommy, can I have this? So you make, I'm 100% sure that they create the ADD child, and then let's even make it better. Let's give them a little fluoride and shut them down, and shut them down creatively, and let's take the music out of the schools, and let's put a lot of crap on TV that has no educational value at all, like nothing profound learning. I mean, one thing I give my father thanks is we have a lot of huge disagreements that we don't get along because we have completely different point of views. But one thing I have to give him thanks is he would sit us down and make us watch National Geographic or Wild America. I don't know if anybody remembers that from the 80s and late 70s. And that did so much that alone made me really get into science and love, learning.
Well, they do. See, the other part of the school is that it would be totally off the grid. No electric lines, anything like that. They will grow their own organic gardens. There will be horses brought in so the children can work with the horses, because horses are really great for kind of bringing a child down to a normal pace. So there are a lot of different things will be at this school that probably are in no other schools, and I'm already taking a lot of heat from it because I have told people I do not believe in drugging these children whatsoever unless that's the very last resort, because there's so many other ways to help them, and drugs are not one. Fluoride is not one. But, people want to control, and they're trying to control these children. And a lot of these children that they say have got ADD, ADHD, or even autism don't. They're just totally multitasking, and they're getting all kinds of information from a much higher source than what we think. So that's a good thing. But I want to go back to both of you guys because I want to talk about your paranormal experiences. Now, we talked about it a little bit. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can both answer them. Take turns. I don't really care who answers first. But the big way that most people are actually out here searching and looking, they're looking for the UFOs, they're looking for disclosure, they want to know if they exist, they want to know if we're the only ones here on the planet and in the universe and the whole thing. My thing is that we'd have to be very egotistical to think that we're the only intelligent things that are in this entire universe. So what's your take on UFOs, ETs being on this planet right now, if some of them are good ones, bad ones, and do you think some of the people who, let's just say, in the eyes of the government would not count, are actually being abducted and used for experiments?
Very good question. Well, as far you want to go first, Tom, or you want me to go first on that?
No, go ahead. You already started.
Oh, okay. No, I was gonna say, as far as that, I feel that, well, first of all, there's only one of us here, so meaning we're all one creation, one being. So really, this conversation is just one person experiencing themselves in multiple ways. But as far as the UFOs and aliens being here, now with so much footage that's out there and so many experiences of people, it's flabbergasting that these, the best word for them is debunkers, because they're really, I hate when people use the word skeptical, because they're really not skeptical. That's called ignorance. When you completely ignore all facts and you just write it off, and then you have the cojones to call yourself a scientist and not even investigate something. It's really frustrating. But as far as ETs being all bad, all good, I would say, our all white people bad? Are all black people, criminals? Are all, Hispanics cocaine dealers? Yeah, some of them are. A very small majority of those people, but not all of them. So I'm sure that, on those, speaking with the negatives, I'm sure there's a small majority, which is probably the same as our military, because if you dealt with our military, you would probably say all humans are horrible, horrible species. They're just warmongers. But that's not true. That's a small percentage. The rest of us are regular loving people who would probably give their shirts off their backs. So to sit there and say that all aliens are this one thing is, think back, are all humans this one way? And again, if we're going to use the 1% and judge what humanity is like, the earth is being destroyed, but is it all humans? So that would be my answer for aliens. And as far as the abductions, it seems like there's some pretty good evidence with the My Labs, as far as some people would say Dulce, New Mexico's, and even with from the guy with Fire in the Sky. Do you remember this?
Travis Walton.
Travis Walton. Yeah, with Travis Walton, he states that it wasn't that he was taken up to a ship like they show in the movie. He kind of describes the cave, and time and time again, I hear a lot of abductees saying that these are, they'll see military people from time to time, and it's not only one person. It says it's a lot of people. So, I think they kind of, either A, they're doing a joint operation, or B, because we know that some of these grays are. Maybe cyborgs is probably the best use, half flesh, half robot. So who knows? They're probably using it, and it's easy. Okay, so now all grays are bad. So we can feed into our agenda, and they're the ones abducting people and doing these horrible things to them. Or there's a joint operation. Tom?
Well, as far as aliens being here, I think we are the aliens. I mean, we're infinite beings. We're immortal beings. I know that I have been had lives in other galaxies and other planets and other solar systems. I mean, boy, infinity's a long time. We've been around a long time. We've had a lot of experiences. And what we are right here, right now, is just one small part of all the experiences that we have had. Now, I have personally seen craft flying in the sky that were absolutely nothing that is publicized as being built here on this planet or by, quote-unquote, humanity. So I know for a fact that there are things flying around in the sky that are most likely interstellar or interdimensional or extradimensional or something like that. So there's absolutely no doubt in my mind there. There's something visiting here. The intuitive processes that I use have also told me that, yes, we have visitors from the majority of the visitors that we have are extra-dimensional. That's what I intuitively pick up. But there are also those who are existing on this same dimensional plane, this third-dimensional plane, who have put together the sacred science in a way that they are able to fold space, or however they do it. They travel those long distances in a blink of an eye. I think they actually slip dimensionally to be able to do this. But anyways, I know they're here. The whole question on the abduction, I think, yeah, I think there were there have been abductions that have gone on, but I think also that it's in one sense, I think there has to be a sort of a. I'm kind of on the fence on this, but I think there's some sort of an agreement that has been made somewhere, maybe in the fourth dimension, in the astral between lives, that I will allow for this to happen or that to happen. Like I said, I'm not too that one's still that's a big still I don't know in my bag. I think that it's a distinct possibility that the MyLab thing's going on. And again, big I don't know. I haven't experienced it. I haven't seen it. I have with my own two eyes, so I can't say I know that. There's a lot of stuff out there that's a big question mark. And as far as the craft that I see flying around in the sky being extraterrestrial, something from another solar system or planet, that still has to be in my I don't know bag, even though I have had the intuitive confirmations, that still has to belong in there because I have not, with this consciousness, had the physical experience of meeting, greeting, and speaking with them face to face. So, there's still a shadow of a doubt there. Not much of one, but there still is a shadow.
We have about 7.5 minutes left before we take a break. So I just want to ask another question. If you were contacted or face-to-face with, say, some alien or whatever the case may be, would it make you happy? Would it scare the bejeebies out of you, or would you actually look forward to it?
Well, actually, it depends on how it happened. If they just appeared in my living room, it'd probably freak me out pretty good. But if I had some sort of forewarning, my intuition is open and my senses are open. I meditate regularly, and I get what I term as downloads from time to time with the little packets of information that. So I think if it were, or when something like that happens, because I do suspect it will happen, I believe that I will have some form of forewarning, or I will see the ship coming in, or they'll come knock on my door, or something in a fashion that's not going to completely freak me out. I will be happy for it. Actually, I would be very pleased to actually have the opportunity to meet our brothers that have grown in this experience on a different plane or a different planet. I just think that'd be exciting and cool to do. I'd have a ton of questions. So, that'd be good stuff.
Sounds like you look forward to it if you weren't scared out of the bejeebies. First, Ramon, what about you?
I'll relay this story really briefly. So, 2010, after I met Tom already had left, and I was staying 3 weeks at Eceti up in Washington, and everybody was gone from the conference. So I said, okay, today is a perfect day to have contact. I want to make contact. So, I'm trying to send a telepathic message out, and I'm in the field, and everybody was tired, so they went to sleep early. So I was really in this 80-acre land by myself because everybody else went to sleep early. So I'm like, tonight's the night. I want to make contact, and I'm sending out. So, okay, it's almost 1 a.m. All right, I guess I'll go to bed. Nothing's going to happen. So I lay in bed, and I fell asleep, and I wake up, and there's a green light. And I go, holy crap. I'm facing the wall, and I'm looking at the wall, and there's this flashing green light. And I said, and I'm scared stiff now. I know I have to turn around, but I'm, scared out of my mind. What am I going to turn around and see? And I said, finally, it's going to happen. But I'm so scared and frozen shut. And finally, when I have the courage to turn around, it was the coffee pot flashing. That story, and the truth is, I'm the same as Tom. If they just show up by the side of my bed, I'm gonna freak out. But I would too if anybody just, it's like, even if my own wife, she just wakes me up sudden, I'm gonna freak out. So, but it's the same with meeting any human person. It all depends on the interaction and the contact. So I treat it just like that. Now, of course, there's going to be certain beings that I feel like I've already met, and I'll go into that in the second part. But there's definitely a few beings that I feel I met, and same as Tom, like they're interdimensional.
Mm-hmm. Which I think that we live in many dimensions, as we Tom had said a little bit ago, and I think it's just that adjustment period that our conscious mind can't quite comprehend what our spiritual mind already knows. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. It's going to be about 3 minutes. When we come back, we're going to talk about a lot of other topics relating to UFOs, even Hollow Earth. And I'll ask you guys some more questions. I find you both pretty interesting, so I'm having a great time. I hope you guys are too. So
Absolutely.
Good. So we're going to take a break. So you guys have about 3 minutes to relax a little bit, and then we'll come back.
Want to know what is going to happen in 2012? Do you have questions about the relationship you're in? Want to talk to someone who doesn't tell you what you want to hear?
Hey everyone, welcome back to What Do You Think? I have two incredible guests on. They actually host their own show on BBS Radio, and we'll announce that again so that you can follow them. I have Ramon and Tom as my guests, and so we're going to bring them back on, and we're going to finish talking about some paranormal experiences that they have had, maybe a couple that I've had, and then we're going to talk about what they feel is going to be going on, and then we're going to also go into alchemy. So when we left off, we were talking about how the people were kind of looking for disclosure, but they're not necessarily getting it, and both you, Tom, and Ramon came up with some of your ideas. I also have to agree that, because where I'm at in New Mexico, I am the last house for 10 miles to the mountains. So a lot of strange things happen here all the time. And I don't tell a lot of people because they say, oh, yeah, all right, Nancy, what you've been smoking out there. But a lot of things happen, and it's just, we had actually a visitor, in their little ship. I don't know if it was our government ship or a UFO ship, but I would bank on a UFO mostly because it hovered, and it started by the mountains, and then it slowly worked its way. My mom saw the lights first and said, Nancy, come here and look at these lights. And by the time I went to the kitchen, it had already passed our house. It was headed for my daughter's house, and it was this huge circle object with lights that blinked all the way around in a circle, just hovering. Not one sound came from this. And then it just kind of drifted and disappeared. So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought, oh, man, that's neat. It was really low and everything, So we kind of had a gay old time with that. So let's talk a little bit about some of your guys' paranormal experiences, because I believe everybody has them. I just believe people are afraid to talk about them.
I was going to ask you, Nancy, did you get a license plate?
No, I didn't even get to take a picture because I didn't have my camera with me, and I'm going, oh, gosh. But there's been a couple of things like that that happened out here.
Always like that.
Yeah.
It's always like that. Well, I've always had, the weird things, I've always had dreams with UFOs, but it wasn't until I really saw my first one when I went up to Eceti. So for those of you who ever want to see one, I would say Eceti is the place to go. And, I remember my first day there, it was 2009, and you see this, it looks like a satellite. It's going over, and it's like, well, then maybe it's just a satellite. But here's the kicker. There was this guy from San Diego. He's become like a good friend of ours, Javier, and he's flashing this laser at the satellite. Now, to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, satellites can't flash back the same color you just flashed at them. So it went from being a white light to a green light. And he flashed 3 times, and it flashed 3 times. And I said, okay, that's the real thing right there. But some of the more amazing stuff I had was here in Japan. No, one time it was when I was living in Queens, New York. And I'm sitting out there, and it looked like, the best description I can give was, it wasn't a stereotypical UFO, but it looked like a giant sheet, plastic sheet that you put over a house, but I mean a giant one. But it was more clear, and it was very fluid-like, and it's floating over the buildings in Queens. So in that area, most of the buildings at the highest there are about 7 stories. So it was around maybe 10, 12 stories, so pretty close down. And it took up about maybe my arm's length. So we're talking about maybe 100 feet, 150 feet wide. But it was shaped more like kind of the one, I'm so bad with remembering names. The guy who first talked about UFOs over close by you, Tom, Kevin Arnold?
No, yeah, Arnold. Yeah, we know who you're talking about.
Yeah, anyway, so so it was something like that. It was clear, and it flew over, and I turned the block to see if I could still see it more, and I couldn't see it. And I had the same experience with something similar here, and it was the same thing again. It looked like a giant plastic sheet flying over. Now, it's flying flat, and to my knowledge, when the wind picks up giant plastics, first of all, I've never seen giant plastics. I've seen small garbage bags, but it doesn't lay it flat. It kind of curves it because that's where the wind is blowing through. So no way this was a plastic bag. For me, the most amazing one was I have like a small little backyard kind of place where I hang my clothes to dry, and I go out there at nighttime, and all of a sudden my eyes went, like the screen went down, and I was seeing in night vision, and I saw this sphere up in the sky, and then it lasted less than a second. It went down and then went back up. So I saw the sphere, and I was like, what just happened? And I'm trying to intuitively, like, feel out the sky. Okay, so you're telling me that there's always a sphere there, or at least that night there was a sphere. So that really blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was amazed. And when the last, not this time, but again, 2010, the last night before I was leaving, these 2 Australian girls had come all the way from Australia to Eceti, and we were all sitting there, and we're seeing this all at the same time. This, again, a satellite coming over, what looked like a satellite, and all of a sudden, there was this flash, like someone took a picture, a huge flash, and the next thing you saw, the best description I could give it was like a blue plasma cloud dissipating. And I said, again, that is not a satellite. Could it be something natural? Yeah, maybe.
Why do you think there are so many sightings in that particular area?
That place is a vortex. I mean, as soon as you go on that land, you feel strong energies, and I would say the same with many places.
The history there for strange things in the sky is hundreds of years old. There's legends from the Indians there, the Yakima Indians there, talk about I can't remember whether the Sky Brothers or however they term it, but the history there for paranormal or unexplained lights in the sky it goes back a very long way. That stuff's been happening there for a long time. There's a lot of people who believe that one of the Indian legends is that there's a city in the mountains, in Mount Adams, that there's actually a city in the mountain. And I don't know if you saw it or not, Ramon, but I've actually seen lights go into the mountain and come out of that mountain.
Yes,
So,
yes. I've seen it from 2 different points, and I think we were together when we were seeing it. When you're looking at the mountain straight ahead, there's one that's like halfway down on the mountain, and
on
then
a little to the right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of the mountain, there's what looks like a doorway.
Yeah.
And it's quite, if you talk about shattering your paradigm, if you think that life is, paying taxes and going to McDonald's, then I got something else to tell you.
Yeah, and the places these lights go in and out of this mountain at, there is absolutely no way the places are like on sheer cliffs. There's no footpaths up there of any kind. So it's not like somebody's walking up on the mountain flashing a flashlight 13 miles away, from where we were. Our vantage point was 13 miles away. And these lights were just way too bright to be any type of a flashlight somebody would be flashing. So there's definitely something going on up there, and that is unexplained. So we'll call them unidentified flying lights.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
No,
and
for my sightings that above and beyond what I've seen at Eceti, my first one was when I was 14 in the Columbia Gorge in eastern Washington. It was just a light that came flashing across the sky and stopped. I mean, it just came to a complete stop, and I was with my older brother. He was driving truck at the time, and I went for a ride with him, and this is about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, Les, did you see that light? You see that light right there? And we both stop and we're looking at this thing, and it's flashing different colors, and all of a sudden it takes off and goes what was probably about 10 to 20 miles to the south, and stopped again. And we were just going, holy bleep, bleep, bleep. And we sat there and watched it. It sat there for about 20 seconds, and flash, it was gone again. So that was the first one I saw. I spent the rest of the trip that night, glued to the windshield of the truck looking in the sky. But probably the most remarkable sighting that I've had was about a year and a half ago here in western Washington. I was out in the country at a friend's house, and I think it was 2 years ago now, because it was January, and it was just frigid cold outside, and the skies were crystal clear. And I'd walked out to my truck to get some CDs, and I looked up at the sky, and it was just gorgeous. And so I ran back in the house and got my friend and asked her to come out, and I said, you just got to see this sky. And we walked out there, and we were just admiring the stars, and it was just beautiful. And I made a comment. I said, the only thing to make this perfect is if I could call in some UFOs that would fly over us right now. And I said, okay, guys, if you're out there, why don't you come on over? And as soon as I said that, a craft came over the top of the hill, and this thing was only like a mile away from me. And it went slowly across the sky right in front of us, and it was a solid white light, and it had it was like almost what would be termed, from my vantage point, it was more of a cylinder with kind of a tower on the front of it. So it was almost like a vector on the front end, but more cylindrical shaped anyways. And it had a cycling or yellow light on the bottom of it. Now, I don't know of any craft that have a yellow light or white light. The whole craft was lit up, and it was huge. It was, if it was a mile away from me, I'm just guessing at the distance, it could have been a mile and a half. If it was a mile away from me, it had to have been probably 200, 250 feet long, and absolutely silent. And it took about 20 seconds to go. I was in kind of a valley, and it went about 20 seconds to go from hill to hill. And that one really got me. I was like, whoa, okay, well, I called for it, and I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful what you're asking for.
It's funny because a lot of people don't realize that if they actually call for them, they do appear. Like where I am in New Mexico, like I said, I'm by the mountains, about 10 miles from mountains, and my mom and I stay up very late at night, like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. My mom is going to be 89, so she doesn't like to sleep. But my bedroom window actually faces right to the mountains, and one night, it's about, 1:30 in the morning, I always look out the window before I go to bed because I just want to see what's out there because it's, again, very gorgeous out here. When the stars are out, they come to the ground. But I'm looking by the mountain, and there's this huge, and I mean huge, white ball just sitting there, and it's not moving, and I'm watching it for like 15, 20 minutes, and it's not coming any closer. It's not going anywhere. It's just sitting there, and then all of a sudden it shoots off all these red lasers and just immediately disappears. I thought, come back here. Where'd you go? It hasn't been back since. But, it's kind of cool, when you get to see things like that. So let's ask a little bit about hollow Earth. Do you two think that the Earth is hollow?
I do out-of-body travel, and I've the conscious intentional stuff where I do it, I go into meditation, and I never have a break in my consciousness. I don't go to sleep and then go out like in a dream state. I'm fully conscious through the whole process. And I did one, I guess it's 2 years ago now. And I got out, and at times I'm very much a novice at this. So I've only been able to actually project a handful of times. And I got out, and I was in a city, in a little town with beautiful oak trees lining the streets, and I was going down this street, and I was a couple of feet off of the ground. I was just floating through the street. I love flying, by the way. And I came up to this church. I don't know where this city was or where this town was, but I came up to this church, and I went right up to the front door. And I looked up to the steeple. It looked straight up, and as I looked up, I fell backwards through the planet. And I went down, 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 and then I was in water. And then when I broke the surface of the water, I was inside the planet. And I was amazed. I was looking around, and I could see the curvature, the inside of a huge sphere. I knew I was on the interior of the planet. It's so big in there. It's like almost like looking at our horizon when you're out on the sea. You can see the curve of the Earth if you really pay attention. It was that type of an interior curve, and I could see that there were. I saw a landmass it seemed to be about 20 miles away, and I looked up in the sky at the quote-unquote, quote, what would be the sun, and there was a sphere there that was, it was semi-lighted. It wasn't a complete ball of flame like you would think the sun would be. It was only partially, which was kind of interesting to me. Now, whether this was our physical planet or something dimensional, I can't answer that. I kind of lean to something dimensional, but the fact that I was able to go into the planet here, I think that I honestly believe that this planet is hollow also. The actual one that I was in, I think, was a dimensional reflection of what we have here right now. So I definitely believe that there is something to that. I mean, there's too many legends and mythologies and what so many cultures term as history of interaction with civilizations in the planet. So,
yeah.
And Ramon, what do you think?
I agree with Tom there, and there's just some amazing work out there. I mean, you work with one of the people that does amazing work on that, Steve Sidoni, Dr. Brooks Agnews, the father and son that do, the name of their book is The Land of No Horizon. I can't remember the name at the moment. But
Smoky God?
No, not Smoky God. The guys, Smoky God is the book from the 1800s. But the guys who do The Land of No Horizon, they do a scientific detail on it. And some of the things that they've mentioned, and Brooks Agnew mentions, is, for example, you have this shadow zone. So if the Earth is solid, as they say, then this when there's an earthquake, it should go straight through the planet with no problem. It doesn't do that. What it does is it goes around the crust. Why does it do that? You know, so, and then also the Earth rings like a bell. Why? So these are scientific questions. Another one is that Brooks pointed out to me was, I can't remember the name of the bird, but there's one in Australia and there's one in, I think, Greenland or Alaska. And they don't fly south for the winter, or from Australia north. They fly, you know, the one in the north flies north, and the one in the south flies south. These birds are not like penguins. They cannot survive these harsh winters. They're there for the summer, and then they leave. So why?
Then they head to the poles.
Exactly. Why would a bird do that? If it's not equipped for winter, then, you know, if it's a frigid bird, then it would do the opposite. It would come, you know,
towards the equator.
Yeah. Well, let's just assume the bird is a frigid bird. So in the winter, it would come towards places like Alaska there, where the winters are not so bad, and then head north for the summer. If it's what some people say, but you can look at the bird and tell it's not equipped for that kind of thing. It comes to the summer and then flies north. And like Tom was saying, there's so many legends we just can't ignore. You know, I hate it when people say, "Oh, that's just stories." Well, a lot of our stories have truth to them. A lot of our stories have truth. Now, is it exaggerated a little bit? Of course. But, I mean, Steve Sidoni made a great point. Eric the Red, 40, 50,000 people. They just, there's no land, there's no great mass grave been found, nothing, no trace of them at all. And what did the Inuit say? Oh, they went north. And the Inuits know where they went. But no, so that's just a legend. No one believes it. It's, you know. But one of the go ahead, Nancy.
What I have been told by a few people is that Hollow Earth does exist, and if you took an airplane and tried to fly to a certain spot on the North Pole, the government automatically intervenes and tells you to leave or they'll shoot you down. Now, that tells me there's a lot being hidden there. And the Hopi have supposedly an entrance over by the Grand Canyon that's very guarded. And it's booby-trapped all the way down, I've also been told by people who, like yourself, Tom, go out of body and do a lot of things. And if you look at some of the movies, like Avatar, for example, or you look at E.T., Go Home, that first movie, it makes you kind of wonder where these ideas came from and how these people would, you know, come up with that kind of an idea in their head. So there has to be some kind of truth to a lot of, quote, the legends. I mean, the Hopis have their legend about how the people came out of the ground and helped save them by taking them underground while the Earth went through some changes. Now, that's pretty strong stuff, you know. So when people want to question a lot of things, or they want to think people are just kind of crazy for believing what they believe in, they really ought to check into some of the things that are really out there, like Brooks Agnew, he talks about it all the time. Colonel Billy Fay Woodard talks about it, Hollow Earth, all the time. That's where he says he's from. So, I mean, there's a lot of different people out there who really kind of have their act together, in my opinion, and kind of know a lot of the facts. We have a person who's on hold who wants to talk a little bit about their UFO experience. So I'm going to bring him on to hear a little bit about him, and then we'll go back and we'll ask you guys some more questions, okay?
Sure. Oh, that sounds great.
Okay, so we have Hugh on 804. So, Hugh, welcome to the show.
Hi, good evening, Nancy, and hello, gentlemen. I'm from Virginia. I was living in New York back in the early 80s. I had a close encounter with one of the big triangular ships about as big as a football field. It came right over the top of me, just over treetop level, when I was working as a contract security officer at Union Carbide's World Headquarters in Danbury, Connecticut. I didn't have any fear of it. I sort of felt euphoric, and after the experience, I don't know if it's a result of it or not, but I've had a lot of bizarre experiences in my life, paranormal and near death, and I'm working on a very big mission and vision currently of bringing spirituality into global economics and combining it with unconditional love, and I can back up a lot of the things that have brought me to this point by just having people investigate all the things that have gone on in my life, some of which was from childhood that I wasn't even aware of. That is quite fascinating to me. And I wanted to also ask if you're familiar with Leslie Mitchell Clark. She has a blog talk show called Contact, and she's just starting a global group called Contact Group International. It's to bring experiences together, not to discuss the experiences so much, but solution-oriented for our future.
Yeah, not really familiar with her, but I will check her out myself. Something I have really noticed with people who have experiences, who see the craft, who have those, get the emotional downloads while they're experiencing these things. This is like an initiation process into a greater reality. Almost everybody I have met, spoke with, that has had any kind of a sighting at all has either already been on a sort of a spiritual path, and this has been a confirmation and a kind of a prompting to dig deeper, or it's somebody who has been awakened by these events because it's time for them to take the next step in their own personal growth, try to grow into that larger reality that we exist in.
That's fascinating. I agree completely. It really suits me to a T.
That's good.
I would say the majority, there's such a high number of people that have these experiences, and the problem is, who do you talk to? Where do you go? Now it's becoming easier because we have the internet, but before we had the internet, I personally didn't have anybody to talk to. I didn't know anybody in this field. Once in a while I would see Strange Universe, the TV program, but other than that, we had nowhere to go. So that I know things are changing because now we can talk about these quote unquote weird experiences, which really, I think the weird experience is us paying taxes, but these UFO sightings and seeing interdimensional beings, I think that's just everyday life that we've forgotten.
We have the veil in. We have the veil in place right now, and we're not able to see them because our belief structure has been molded to not be able to see them. Now, we were talking in the first hour. We were talking about schools and how the proper way to foster the education of children and how to promote their abilities, their own individual abilities and interests and skills, and without those veils, without putting those blocks upon them. We were grown through the last 6,000 years we've been continually programmed from day one to not be able to see these things, to not experience these things. Now our time is coming where, hey, this is the apocalypse. This is the great unveiling. This is the time where we will be able to see. The consciousness is raising. We are beginning to understand who and what we are, and the more and more people who start asking these questions and start experiencing these things, the higher the vibration is raised throughout the whole planet. And that's why we call that's why we like the 100th Monkey, the 100th Monkey as the name of our show, because it's the effect that each consciousness has on all the other consciousnesses around them and throughout the whole planet. As one learns something, it is spread vibrationally, or it spreads, and everyone else gets that same message in some form or fashion. They feel that vibration, and it comes closer to the surface of their consciousness, and it's spreading. We're growing, and this is the great unveiling.
Yeah, it would be. Hugh, thank you for calling in. We like talking with people, so thank you for making your call. And you can, listen to the rest of the show. Don't just hear what we have to say. The other thing that
thank you so much.
Very welcome. You're welcome, Hugh. The other thing is, I really believe that the whole idea of 2012 is not really what it's cracked up to be. And I think that the unveiling, Tom, that you're talking about has already started. It started back ways, but it's just really starting to take off a little bit better because there are more and more people who are allowing them to let that veil kind of lift for them. But people are going to keep trying to keep us under this veil. I just don't believe that as we go through this year and into 2013 that they're going to be able to do that. And when it comes to the children, like we talked about before, this is their time to really help us to know what we have to do in order to, make this planet the right, in the right place like it was meant to be. Now, before, Ramon, you wanted to talk a little bit about alchemy. So let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't you give your definition of alchemy and then go ahead with the topic.
Before I go into alchemy, I wanted to mention to you, have you ever looked into earth ships?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just mentioning maybe that might be a lot cheaper and much better to build one of those as a school. But I'll go into the alchemy. Well, alchemy is, in its true form, is the study of nature. And what is nature? Well, look around. Nature is everything. The stars, the trees, the butterflies. Everything around you is nature. Now, alchemy is the transmutation of one thing into another. So how does this happen? So, for example, you have a volcano. A volcano erupts. It burns everything off. All the water is completely evaporated. So what this volcano is doing is completely cleaning out everything. Now, the rock solidifies, it rains down, you have plants that start to grow on it, like moss, and you have certain types of bacteria that break down the rock and turn it back to dirt. Now you have this fresh, good dirt that trees grow in and other stuff grow in, and then again the cycle happens. Now, as I'm mentioning there, you have the quote-unquote destruction and the renewal. Well, alchemy is the same thing. Now, what is believed amongst alchemy is famous for transmuting gold. So everybody's like, but it's more than that. It's a lot more than that. Yes, that's possible. Why is it possible? Because you have one part. Okay, so amongst the alchemists, it's believed that all metals are the same. So they're all one family, and they'll start off from their worst part, which is their lead or mercury, and the higher up they go, they get into silver and gold. So, for example, you have a child. When a child is born, where they want to reach is adulthood. So you have this cycle again. The same thing with a seed. A seed comes down and it grows into a tree. And the same thing with your spirit. So there's a lot of symbolism in alchemy, and I prefer the Chinese because for me personally, it's easier to understand. But where a lot of the European alchemists, they'll use things like the crow. Well, what is the crow symbol, for example? So you have the crow would be the death when everything putrefies and you think there's nothing left there. And then that's when the union starts. So in a spiritual sense, we evacuate everything that's not needed. Our childhood issues, our problems with so-and-so, and the aggressions we hold back, and that all is evacuated. So now everything is putrefied. Now the true growth can start when the yin and the yang come into balance, the male-female aspect, the sun and the moon aspect come into balance. And that, for me, is what true alchemy is. It's something that you should be able to apply as so above is so below. You should be able to apply this at every single level. And that's what real truth is. If it only applies in this third dimension, then it's not real truth. It needs to be able to be applied in every single level of nature. And that is the truth. So I hope that's not long and winded. Tom, you have anything to say?
You keep being really short, Ramon.
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, in relation to alchemy, well, I just know that, kind of like Ramon was saying, the alchemy to me is the transmutation of the spirit. It's burning off the dross and finding the true gold, the true metal within the spirit. Now, Ramon and I are actually doing the alchemical process to create our Philosopher's Stone. I know a lot of people are familiar with the Book of Aquarius that came out a couple years ago, and we're both working through that process. And through that process, we're both learning a lot about life. We're learning a lot about our own spirits. We're learning a lot about the minerals. So we're learning about how some of the physical properties of our natural world operate. So, I mean, it's just this whole process that we're going through, whether or not we have, when we get done, we have the official Philosopher's Stone. The journey of creating this is rewarding in itself. So, so as far as I'm concerned, alchemy has this process that we're going through specifically is a win-win in my book. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's as far as alchemy, like anybody, it's a free download. It's called the Book of Aquarius, and the author does he does such an amazing job describing it, and he referenced all the old books like the Emerald Tablet, which is one of the most famous ones and one of the oldest books on alchemy. But it's quite, like Tom was saying, it's quite the amazing journey, because what you start to realize is you start looking at nature and you really pay close attention, and there is no better teacher than nature itself. And there's Ralph Ring, and anybody who's familiar with Ralph Ring, he worked with, what was his name, Tom?
Which one? Otis T. Carr?
Yeah, he worked with Otis T. Carr, and then back in the 1950s, they built a flying saucer. And they tested. And one of the things that he said about the machine is that it has like a type of consciousness, and you have to be like a conscious being in order to interact with it. So when you're dealing with such high technologies, your consciousness has to move up. And the machine itself, he said it was kind of conscious, which I found so amazing. So when he said that, it just clicked into my head, okay, there is consciousness in everything. Maybe not at the same level as us, but as some hypnotherapists would describe that some people described in their past life being rocks. Well, what would you learn going into a rock spiritually for a while? What do you learn? What would you learn? I personally believe that we've been everything, where some people say, no, the human soul evolves this way, that. I personally don't buy into that. But going back to what nature is and how Ralph Frank would say, as a kid, he studied nature. You just look at it. So if you want to create a new technology or you want to change something, just look at the way nature operates. There is no better teacher. And once you think you have it figured out, that's when you lose, because there's so much more to learn.
So I want to briefly go over an amazing way that an experiment that anybody can do to realize the effect of consciousness on matter, on physical matter. I did this experiment, and you can find it on our website at hundredthmonkeyradio.com. It's called the rice experiment, and this was done by Dr. Emoto in Japan. What you do is you take three containers, three identical containers. You take 3 equal parts of rice and water in each container, and what you do is to one of the containers every day, you go by and you say, I love you, you are beautiful, you are, just positive emotion into that one container. In the second container, you say, I hate you, you're the most disgusting thing, I want to kill you, just real nasty negative energy into it, and you ignore the third one. And you just watch the results. Just every day, when you go by and make your comments to the 2 glasses, you will see the progress that they make. Now, this is a repeatable experiment, and I have never seen anyone that had any other results than what I found. The first glass that you say I love you to, that rice will stay pristine for a remarkable amount of time. The second glass that you say I hate you to, that glass will start to decay. You'll see the black spots start appearing and nasty scum on the top of the water, and it starts to decay like you would expect, rice and water sitting out on the counter to do. Now, the third glass that you ignore that's one really hit me in my heart. That one decayed 5 times as fast as the one that you said I hate you to, and it just got completely disgusting very fast. What that told me is if you put love into the intention of love into something, it's going to have positive, good results. If you have negative emotions or feelings that attention that you pay to something, it will have issues. It will start decaying. It will have negative results. If you completely ignore something, then it's just going to go all to hell. Now, when I did this experiment, I thought of children, and we keep going back to kids here because the kids are so important. You think about a parent raising a child, and the attention they give a child, or the lack of attention they give a child. They push the kid, go watch TV. Ignore the kid and make the kid go watch TV. What's going to happen to that child? That child is going to not do very well. Even negative attention is better than no attention at all. So you check that out on our website. It's there's a link right on the main page in the menu bar to the rice experiment. I've got a bunch of pictures on there. I still have the experiment going on my counter, and it's been over a year now. A year and a month now that I've had this going, or something like that. And the rice the love rice still isn't rotten.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Which is true. I read a lot about Dr. Moto with some of his experiments, and the energy that people put out, like you're saying, Tom, whether it's love, hate, whatever, for children, it's attention. But they're not going to do what, the hate and all that. And if a child is totally ignored, they tend to really shrivel up, almost like there is nothing left of life inside of them. And then people wonder, why is that child like that? That's like when I was saying earlier, when they come to the school, once it's open, that's why the entire family is going to have all of these things, numerology chart, astrology chart, in a consultation with me, so I can look at that and know where that child is, why they got there, and what's either going to help them to elevate themselves back, give them, new empowerment for themselves, or how to tone them down a little bit, because some children who are, told, go watch TV, don't want to be bothered, they'll do anything to get attention,
right.
even if it's bad attention. So a lot of that, what you're saying, Tom, is very true, and it does relate very much to what happens with children. So it's very important.
Right.
We have about 13 minutes left.
Okay, I want to make one more comment on that experiment, is that it does really bring it home and will prove to anybody who does that experiment that your consciousness has an effect on matter, on physical matter. You can affect physical reality with just your thoughts.
That is very true. And one last point, I'll make it really quick. If you notice something, not all, of course, but with most either serial killers or here in Japan, sometimes we have somebody who just snaps and starts stabbing people for no apparent reason. If you look into the history of what kind of person they are, they were ignored. I mean, they live by themselves. They're sad. They have no friends to talk to. No one likes them at work. Or even the cases in America, the post office, that was the guy everybody made fun of at work or at school, and all of a sudden they snapped. So it's the same thing that the ignoring, it really, really affects.
It really does. Give out your website again and the radio show, what station it's on, what time it's on, what day it's on, so people can find you too.
The 100th Monkey Radio.com is the website, and we air on BBS that's bbsradio.com on Sundays at 3:55 p.m. Pacific, 6:55 p.m. Eastern, and the rest you can all figure out. And that's the first hour. Then we have the second hour in our members section on the website. And we also have right now we have 8 gig sticks, our little monkey sticks. These things are cute. You have to check them out. For $40, it gives you the first, what we get on there, 61 episodes, Ramon? I think
60 episodes and 5
video interviews, and then we also put on there the audio and PDF file for the Book of Aquarius. So, I'd like to get rid of the first batch we bought. So
they get that off your website.
Yes. And last announcement is I was hoping to have it done now, but probably March. I'm shooting for March now to have my book published, which is called Scratching the Cosmic Consciousness. So that's a science fiction novel, delving into everything we talked about today. So hopefully that'll be out by March.
Yeah, I have no idea when I'll ever finish mine.
We're going to just give you a swift kick in the butt, Tom, and get you going. How's that?
Yeah, I do that to myself quite often, and I still don't seem to get anything written. Because every time I'll get something down. I mean, we're constantly growing and changing, and I'll get something written down that makes perfect sense and understandable to me at the time, and then a month later I'll go back and read it and go, I see it so differently now.
Mm-hmm.
What I need to do is just buckle down and complete it and send it out before I change my mind again.
Yeah, and don't try to reread it so often, because that will mess you up. Usually what you write is pretty important.
You're so right.
Just leave it, okay? Just leave it. Now we have about 9.5 minutes left, so we have about 8 minutes, and I want both of you to answer this, not long but short. When it comes to 2012 and the Mayan calendar, do you think that the 2012 Mayan calendar ending is our way of ascension and waking up, or do you think it's just going to pass us like 2000 did with the YTU or whatever it was called? Y2U, YU2.
Y2K.
Yeah, Y2K.
I think that date has significance as a kind of a line in the sand sort of thing. It's just a point that we're going to cross, and the significance that it has, it's pointing to a time in our history or our future, so to say, that has great significance in the changes that are happening to the consciousness on the planet. I think they knew, and I think a lot of different cultures throughout our history have known that this period in our history, the big changes are happening. Big changes to the consciousness are happening. As far as the whole ascension thing, it depends on what you want to call ascension. The ascension of our consciousness to a higher state, yes. The changing into Homo luminous or completely leading into the other dimensions, that's a big question mark for me still.
Okay, and Ramon?
Yeah, I would agree with Tom there. 2012 I look at it as like a New Year's, but we celebrate the New Year's, the Earth going around the sun. So now the sun going around the galaxy. So we're celebrating this 26,000 year New Year, and it really, for me, I think it's gonna be a reflection of what's going on, and not, because we always, as soon as you say that, the first thing you think is all the negative things. But there's so many good, positive things happening, and the thing is that the light's not shine on it. But it's growing fast enough where it's going to, people are going to start noticing these things, all the things we're talking about. I think that's what we're going to see in the future is more and more people are going to point to these things. They're going to, Masaru Emoto's work and everybody else's work in this field, where they're going to really start waking up and saying, oh, man, I didn't know we can do this so easy. So I'm still on the edge whether or not our planet's going to move up to the fifth dimension or not. Is it changing? Yes. Are we going to become Homo luminous? But are we changing physically? I believe at least I am. I feel like changing physically.
So. I agree there, Ramon. I think we're definitely changing. I think our physiology is changing. I think we have to. We're electromagnetic beings, and we're constantly moving into different energy fields. And I mean, it's got to happen. So I think our future is a lot brighter than most people, or I'd say the mainstream is trying to portray. I mean, they like the doom and gloom and scare the crap out of everybody, but I think our future is so much brighter than most people can even imagine.
I believe it's very much brighter. The other thing is that I would think that with the media coverage of how they cover things is another way to try to make us live in that fear state so that we can still be controlled. And we're all coming out of that. And the sooner we come out of that, the better I think the whole world will actually be, the whole planet will be. But I also believe that the Earth itself is doing some shifting because it does have to clean some of the excess debris of us killing off this planet. And it will do that. And so there will probably be more disasters coming. And not everybody's going to make it, but that was their choice before they ever got here to begin with. So that really shouldn't surprise a lot of people. But I do think the Earth itself is also doing some change and some growth that's going to help us continue to do our growth so that we can all work together for a change instead of killing off the planet or killing off other people. I think it's time that we all work together, including the planet. And I think it would be a much, much better place if we all did that and respected Mother Earth.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right now.
What I would say to your audience is, we don't know what's going to happen. Nothing is written in stone. So just be sensitive. Like, I'm personally very sensitive in my stomach. Some people are more sensitive in their heart. Tom gets a lot of, intuition. So when you feel it's time to pack your stuff and get the F out and just keep moving, do it. Don't ignore it, because here during the earthquake, I heard stories of, people telling their bosses, telling them, no, stay in the office, everything will be fine, or, stay in your homes, and then boom, the house was gone. So, if something happens in your area and you feel like it's time to move, or you see all the birds are gone and there's no chirping where normally there's chirping, pay attention. Just, again, pay attention to nature.
I agree. You guys, we're actually out of time, and I'd like to thank you for taking the time being on the show. Mix-up we had yesterday, we straightened out today, so I really want to thank you guys. It's been very, very interesting listening to both of you talk, and I'm hoping a lot of people turn on your show too. So thank you for being on.
Well, thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. And our next week's show is going to be Nick Redfern, who actually right now is probably upset the government a lot because he has disclosed a lot of their secret places that they have things going on. So that should be interesting. So join us next week. And again, thank you guys for taking the time. Thank you, all the listeners. May you have a great week, and we'll talk next time. Take care. Bye now.
Yay!